For me to write this review and not mention the development of Doom RL would be a disservice. The open source roguelike might carry Doom in its title, now legally titled DRL, but it's an entirely different beast in terms of marrying hardcore turn-based action with roguelike mechanics. Jupiter Hell happens to be a much prettier version of DRL and is even dubbed a spiritual successor. The game features many elements about the DRL experience and presents it to modern players for one of the most action-packed turn-based experiences you'll ever have. I'm sure Jupiter Hell has a narrative, but it doesn't matter. A story would not make this game any more enjoyable, and I didn't care about why I was even on Jupiter. I just wanted to blow shit up. Players can choose between 3 character classes from the start. While each character has a passive skill, it doesn't matter who you play as because they control largely the same. Through combat, characters gain levels, which allows them to upgrade various stats. Reaching a certain level with prerequisite skills unlocked can even allow the purchase of a master skill, which only makes late game levels more enjoyable, but there's still a high amount of challenge to worry about. Before getting into the combat systems, navigation plays a huge part in this game, and it's something that you won't understand until you've died a few times. Each floor branches into a few different areas via an elevator, but similarly it's possible to stay in one area and just climb those floors, but you can just as quickly go to another area since you're told where you're going at the opening of an elevator. Runs become easier to navigate over time because it's less likely you'll enter one of the more challenging rooms when you aren't prepared. However, these rooms generally contain more powerful gear or needed resources. For a roguelike that focuses heavily on ranged weapon combat, the auto-aiming controls are very well implemented. I rarely had to manually switch between enemies, but you can easily do it with the press of a button. However, the vision of players is limited to the character's sight, and this can be further limited in some darker areas. The game encourages players to be thoughtful and strategic about their moves, but sometimes I forgot this was even a turn-based game. This is only because the action is so fluid. However, not paying attention to your resources and turns will get you killed quickly. Weapons in the game range with a large variety of pistols, shotguns, and machine guns. You can hold 3 at a time, and they each require unique ammo depending on their type. So what happens is that you'll be hard pressed to find ammo for weapons found earlier in the run in later stages. This typically wouldn't be a problem as upgrading to the newest weapon sounds like a good idea, but this game also allows mods to your weapons with special items, which sucks when ammo is harder to find for a specific weapon that you spent a lot of resources on. I'll say many of the pain points you'll have with the game is par for the course of a roguelike. The first few hours of gameplay are generally spent pushing the game to see what it'll allow you to get away with. Here, keeping cover in mind is always the best option. Resource space is limited, so you'll need to check what you need or don't need, and be sure to take some time to read what the upgrades do. Using the game's turn-based nature to your advantage is great, but the difficulty comes into play when you have to use a turn to reload your weapons and a shotgun-wielding enemy is walking your way. Enemy types are mostly grunts that you'll see over and over again. Some can induce status effects, but things become silly when you enter a room full of humans and mutants who all look the same. However, you're able to utilize the environment during combat, either for cover or to blow up a tank and kill a group of enemies. Your Marine character is a powerhouse, but you'll have to understand those limits to survive. Luckily, you begin this game as a said powerhouse, so dying doesn't really come with too many downsides because it just means you'll get to explore another procedurally generated path and find more powerful loot. What works for Jupiter Hell is how approachable it is. There are multiple difficulty levels for players and various ways to approach gameplay that make it a blast. Following a death, I was never upset or felt like I wasted any time. I just wanted to jump back in. I would say that the soundtrack was a playing factor in this as the metal riffs had my head bopping on several occasions. Further, for an isometric shooter, this game sure is pretty. Environments are basic but fun to explore, and blood paints the floors with every death leaving behind precious loot. There are added modes available that provide new challenge levels and ways to experience the game, making it more enjoyable the more you play. Jupiter Hell doesn't need the word Doom in the title to make an impact, but it's commendable how well it presents DRL through modern design. At its heart, it's a turn-based dungeon crawler RPG, but that doesn't calm my nerves when I'm blasting through a hallway of enemies from around the corner with more approaching from behind. This game's launch version is serviceable, but the lack of enemy variety will leave your first hours of gameplay feeling repetitive in some areas. Still, it's clear that there's more on the way for the standout roguelike experience, and I'm all here for it. NoisyyPixel is giving Jupiter Hell an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review on NoisyyPixel.net. NoisyyPixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
NoisyyPixel.